here we are really excited about talking about the future of money. And who better than Alfred R. Kelly Jr., who's the chairman and CEO of Visa, to actually share with us where exactly is money headed, the entire treatment towards the money, or for that matter, the transformation. And as we all know, Mr. Alfred, who joined Visa in 2016 as a chief executive officer and then was elected chairman of the board in 2019, and spent the majority of his career at American Express, where he worked from 1987 to 2010. And over those 23 years, he held several senior positions. And the renowned leader that he is, it is only befitting to gather his insights when we talk especially about the future of money. And this conversation is being spearheaded by Arijit Barman, who's the deputy resident editor with the Economic Times. So let's find out where the money is headed when it comes to the future. Let's find out the answer to that in the form of this befitting conversation featuring none other than Mr. Alfred R. Kelly Jr.
Thank you for that introduction. Our next session will be on the future of money. Well, for many of us, we really don't have our answer. From online payment to cryptocurrency, the whole idea of money is, according to some, under threat, whereas others would say it's waiting to disrupt the way we conduct business and transactions. To talk about it, we have none other than Alfred Kelly, Global CEO of Visa. Thank you, Mr. Kelly, for taking time out and joining the Global Business Summit.
Arijit, it's an honor to be with you and be part of the summit, so thank you for inviting me.
First question, of course, I would like to, before we get into the macro and the global picture, talk a bit about India. You're one of the largest card network operator in the country. What are going to be your focus in terms of investments and your strategy when it comes to a market like India, which, as I said in my introduction, is on the cusp of massive disruption in the whole payments space?
Well, Arijit, India is one of the exciting places in the world. I've had the pleasure of being there dozens and dozens of times, and I think the world of the country. And I wish I was there with you today and hope to get there again soon. We've been in India for about 40 years. Over 40 years. We actually introduced our first card in India in 1980, which was the year I actually graduated from university. And obviously, one of the pivotal moments in payments in India happened in November of 2016 when demonetization happened. And it really opened up the eyes of the Indian people in terms of beginning to think about using other than cash. And India is still a big cash society, as you know, but boy, it has changed quite a bit in the last 5.5 years. We've seen 40% growth just in the last year, and our share in the country is about 50%. And a lot of this comes because of foundational elements of payments is the fact that it's an infrastructure, and it comes with lots of different partners. And we partner with traditional financial institutions. We partner very closely with Fintechs. We partner very closely with merchants. And as a result, what we're seeing is acceptance points growing tremendously. There's now, by our estimate, 6 million acceptance points in India. It's still a fraction of what it will be over the next decade, but growing tremendously. Contactless payments are growing. They were about 16% at the end of last year, which is really terrific progress. We're also investing beyond payments, Arijit, into our two other growth areas. One is new flows, where, for example, we're working with Open, which is a neobank that you're probably aware of within India, where they're issuing both credit and debit cards, as well as using our push product that we call Visa Direct. We're also partnering with Paymate, which connects 35,000 buyers and suppliers. And then we're focused on investing in what we call value-added services. These are capabilities or solutions that Visa offers on transactions to try to make that transaction richer in some way. That could be that we introduce fraud tools or risk management tools or loyalty tools. We're working on installments in India. We're partnering with Slice and Lazy Pay as two examples. And we're very focused on tokenization in India. And India is the second biggest market in the world for our gateway product that we call CyberSource. So we see India, in short, as a market that has grown tremendously in payments in the last 6 years, but is still in the early part of a growth trajectory that I see happening over the next 10 to 20 years. And I think what we'll see in India in this meeting in 2042 will be unrecognizable from where it is today in 2022.
Most certainly. Now, you touched upon a very interesting point. On one hand, it's clear that you're offering the whole suite of both your legacy offerings as well as newer, the newer innovative stuff, which is on the realm of fintech. But as you're aware, the UPI payments in the country have caught on like none other. I mean, it's been inching towards 5 billion transactions a month, probably exacerbated by COVID and the lockdowns that had happened thereafter. Now, then there is also a push from our regulator, which is the Reserve Bank of India, to get wallet interoperability and many other such innovations to push digital commerce. And the government is also endorsing the homegrown RuPay network. Don't you feel cornered or threatened by all this sudden competition coming out of India?
The answer is no. Competition is part of what we live with every single day. Payments is a great business. Money movement's a great business. And lots of people are increasingly taking an interest in it. And governments are taking an interest in it. And I actually look at the RBI as one of the more progressive regulators around the world. I think the RBI is a leader in trying to displace cash. They're a leader in trying to introduce more protections into the ecosystem. They've been a leader in trying to make sure that there's a place in the ecosystem for fintechs. When we think about competition, the reality is that all you want to make sure of when you think about regulation is that that regulation is continuing to encourage innovation. It is allowing for a relatively even playing field, and that it's encouraging good competition that is helpful for everybody in the ecosystem themselves. And I think for the most part, the RBI strives to do just that. When regulation's being considered, we certainly weigh in and try to offer our point of view. Once regulation is formalized and approved, our number one objective is to comply with that regulation. That's our job as a company that has the honor of doing business in a country like India. So, for example, we've worked very, very hard to make sure that we're compliant with the data localization rules that were put in place by the RBI. We also look at our role in the ecosystem with regulators, and in the case sometimes with competitors, to make sure that we're doing things that are good for the overall ecosystem. So one of the things that the RBI did in conjunction with the networks is to really promote tokenization, which actually helps protect all transactions. And that's a really, really good thing for the ecosystem. It's a very, very positive development for the ecosystem. So whether it's India or it is Singapore or it is Brazil or it's Mexico or it's the United Kingdom, competition is something that we live with every day. Regulation is something that we live with every day. And again, I think smart regulation that does the things that I said it does and a good, fair, competitive environment help all boats rise and help make the ecosystem in a particular country that much better as you look to the future.
They most certainly do, but the grouse that many of your peers have, especially the global peers, is that the problem with India remains the goalposts keep shifting, and especially in a sector, in a space like payments, which is evolving literally every day, it becomes problematic. Business models, get disrupted. That is, stability in terms of regulation and policy making is something that is missing in India. That's the common refrain that we keep hearing from several of your global peers. Isn't that indeed something that's worrisome?
Well, I think as India has really emerged into digital payments in a relatively short period of time, the changes in the last 5.5 years are truly monumental. And I think any regulator would be trying to figure out what the right things are to do. I think the intentions of the RBI are very positive. I think the RBI tends to listen well. But that said, there have been times where there's been some lack of clarity or a change in position from time to time that makes it challenging. But again, that happens in other markets as well. And our job is to try to inform as much as possible, be as good a partner as we can, suggest things that we think are good for the market. We're not always going to agree with regulators. Sometimes we'll think a regulation is very good. Sometimes we won't think it's very, very good. But that's what makes the world go round. The regulators have a job, just like I have a job running Visa. And I think together we have to find ways to work together on regulation, whether we 100% agree with it or disagree with it.
Mm-hmm. Why I'm emphasizing on this point is because we've seen a lot of to and fro, especially when it comes to data and where it should be stored. And linked to that is the whole privacy issue.
Yes, look, data is the new oil. It is a very, very powerful ingredient towards companies trying to gain competitive advantage through insights. And as we look ahead to things like artificial intelligence and machine language, the various capabilities that you have relative to data just get enriched. And I think it's very important to protect data. Ultimately, data is that which is owned by the consumer itself. And we all have an obligation. If used properly, data can help provide more value for consumers. It can make offers more relevant. We just have to all be very, very good stewards of data, and wherever possible, use it in an anonymized fashion and an aggregated fashion. We spent a lot of time thinking about data. We actually, Arijit, just appointed about 2 months ago our first ever global chief data officer to deal with what we think are the various ways we should use and retain and store and protect data globally. So there are countries like India who have decided that one of the ways to protect data is to localize it. I don't necessarily think that is necessarily the best answer, but we will work with whatever the conditions are to make sure that regardless that we are doing our part to be good stewards of data and protecting data very carefully and protecting the privacy of the end customer.
You talked about fintech in your opening comments. That is, of course, a very exciting space in India. And as the lines between offline and online get blurred, and as I keep repeating, COVID-19 has been the biggest example or the facilitator for that blurring to actually take place. How do you see yours, Visa's strategy evolve around fintechs in India? Are you setting up an investment platform like a seed fund to partner with fintech companies in India? You have several partnerships, as you mentioned. Will you cement them further with equity infusion? How do you see this pan out?
Well, fintechs have been a fantastic addition to the payments and money movement ecosystem for the most part. We at Visa believe we're the first real great fintech story, so we're very empathetic as it relates to fintechs. And my philosophy as a business leader is that all of them could add value and be great partners unless and until proven otherwise. And our job isn't to pick winners and losers. We want to enable all of these players. And to that end, we've been extremely active with fintechs in India. Our win rate in terms of relationships with them has been over 80% in the last year. One of the star stories is Paytm, which now has 8.5 million credit and debit credentials. It's up 6 times its growth in the last year or two. We've also worked with them on 280,000 acceptance points, which is up 50% year over year. And I think here again, the RBI has helped been a catalyst through their program, their sandbox program, which has helped bring companies like ours together with fintechs. We've also done things like develop the Visa Accelerator program, which identifies fintechs throughout the country. We've put in place something called the Visa Fast Track program, which allows fintechs to connect with Visa without having to go through too many bureaucratic steps, because these tend to be small companies that are very agile and want to move fast. And frankly, at times, to be perfectly honest, we don't move fast enough. So we've had to put this Fast Track program in place. We've also developed a program called the Visa Developer Platform, where we make upwards of 600 APIs available to fintech developers to help them get to market more quickly with more solutions. So in general, and to answer your last question about investment, yes, we have invested in some fintechs. Our philosophy globally is that we're not an investment company per se, Arijit, but we will, if we find a fintech who wants to do a commercial deal with us, and it's important to them that we also do a side-by-side investment, we're happy to do just that. But the primary thing we're looking for is to have a very good relationship where we help that fintech grow and they provide some incremental and differentiated value that help us and help our other clients that run on the Visa network globally.
Understood. Now, fintech and innovation, they go hand in hand. Now, your development center in Bangalore, has been one of the key R&D hubs for the company globally. Do you see more and more India-first innovations, or which can then be piloted across the globe? And which are the areas where you see India-first innovation actually taking on the whole world? I mean, Google launched Google Pay first for India and then took it to US. Do you have similar plans, similar products?
Well, I have to say, we continue to be enormously impressed with the talent pool in India, and we have 1,800 engineers at the development center that you referenced, and they work on a lot of state-of-the-art development. Some of them are India first, but some of them are just work that goes into global platforms that help and clients in every single country around the globe. But there are some India first. So I'll give you an example. Visa SafeClick was developed here in India by our engineers here, which allows merchants around the world around India, key online merchants, to comply with one click, one secure click with the RBI's two-factor authentication mandate. So, and we believe that that capability, Visa Safe Click, which we are piloting in India, has great promise to go around the world. So yes, I think as India grows, as the number of acceptance points, the number of partners, the number of credentials grow, we'll see more India first capabilities delivered, especially because we have the 1,800 engineers on the ground in India.
Mm-hmm. Now, we're running out of time, so I'll have two last questions for you. As a company, you've been a big proponent of open and interoperable payment strategy, which is talking about the network of network strategy, so to speak. Now, so within the fintech space, are there some sweet spots that Visa wants to go, wants to deep dive or double down on, SME, small and medium enterprise, financing them, or buy now, pay later, which is BNPL products, a space which is really booming, or neobanks? Are there pockets within the fintech spectrum that really you find exciting?
Well, I'd say all of the above, and we don't have time to talk about all of them. But in particular, we're looking to really help small and micro businesses around the world. They're so key to the economies of so many countries. Certainly true of the United States, where I am today, and certainly true of India, where you are today. And we're trying to digitally enable, over a 3-year period, 50 million small businesses and micro enterprises around the world. Because frankly, during this pandemic, the small businesses that have succeeded are those that have been more digitally enabled, those that had websites, those that had an omni-channel capability. And we're trying to make sure that as the pandemic has greatly accelerated the digital world, as you remarked in your opening comments, that we want to make sure these critical and important small businesses are able to come along and survive while competing against some of the huge mega players that exist around the world. So anything that fintechs can do to help us enable the growth and the education of small and micro businesses around the world is something we're going to definitely spend a lot of time paying attention to.
So will you be launching your own line of products or do acquisitions for the same?
Well, our view is that we will always want to try to come up with solutions internally ourselves, but we're not afraid to acquire if that is the best route to get there. So I think, as we have over the last couple of years, going forward, I think you would expect to see us both come out with proprietary offerings across a wide array of capabilities and solutions. And I think you'll continue to see us be an active acquirer in the corporate development space where that makes sense as well, Arijit.
And the last question, since the topic is the future of money, let me ask you, what is the future of money? Is cash or centralized finance under threat as more and more people get used to cryptocurrency? Central bankers around the world are somewhat uncomfortable. In India, certainly our regulator is very uncomfortable, although the government is taking a middle path. Where do you see the future of money?
Well, the future of money is digital. However that actually manifests itself, we'll see. Mm-hmm. We'll see how successful buy now, pay later is. We'll see how successful various elements of crypto are. Or are people comfortable with the traditional credentials, or will they leverage RTPs? What will be the role of account to account? So I think there's lots of options. Ultimately, we want to enable and be centrally involved in all of them. And ultimately, the consumer will decide based on what is providing them the best user experience and the best value. I believe our job is not to tell the consumer what they should do. Our job is to enable as many options as we can for them, and they'll ultimately decide what works for them.
Absolutely. Alfred, Kelly, It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so very much.
Arijit, a pleasure to be with you and your audience, and thank you very much, and hope to see you in person next year.
Absolutely.